This is the continuation of a story about how the coronavirus quarantine tried to rob me of my mental health like a thief. You are backstage with Brawin. I can tell you the moment that I knew that I really was feeling so unlike myself. I had been telling everybody that I wasn't feeling great mentally or spiritually, and I just kept on and kept on talking. And then all of a sudden, I got to the point where I knew I needed to do something for myself. And for me, that's always travel. Now, I already know, what am I going to do in a pandemic? Where am I going in a pandemic? So I had this brilliant idea to finally stop saying no to my sister's invitation to visit. I want to take any negative energy, to clearly what is a very beautiful place. I didn't want to take that energy to them. And also, I was very afraid of traveling. And that is horrible for me. That just says everything you need to know. If there was ever an idea or thought that could keep me off an airplane, child, I had not yet met it. But coronavirus, let me just say this, coronavirus. And I was immediately thwarted. Like, travel, who gonna do that? Not me. Okay, so I knew it was time to do something, and I decided that yes, I'm going to spend the winter in Punta Cana. I'm going through the motions, I'm checking flights, I'm doing all that. And I'm sitting, as I'm doing it, I'm talking to my mother. And all of a sudden, I looked at my mother and she looked at me. I said, I think my passport is expired. I stopped what I was doing. I ran inside to the safe. I pulled out my passport. It had expired 1 week to the day. That is when I knew I had lost all track of myself. Because listen, there isn't a time, a day, a minute where I am not fully aware of the status of my passport, because I'm thinking about where the next passport stamp is going to come from. All right, so coronavirus and the effects of coronavirus had me losing all concept of travel, and it made me lose track of my favorite accessory, which is my passport. I am going to pick up with this passport story, but I am going to just take a quick minute to encourage anyone that's watching this. If you are having any kind of feeling of, if y'all want to call it melancholy, I called it melancholy until I decided to call it what it was, which is depression. If you feel like you really and truly are losing yourself because of this pandemic, I get it. How about this? Just get your best friend, your sibling, a mental health care worker on the phone using MD Live. Do something for yourself where you can express these feelings, because otherwise they are absolutely overwhelming. And I know this personally. I'm telling you this from personal experience. Okay, so after I dealt with the trauma of knowing I sat around in a pandemic for 3, 4, 5 months, not renewing my passport that could have been in the process of renewal while I'm sitting around feeling a type of way, that just made the depression worse. So right that very next day, I left. I did my passport renewal, and the man tells me 3 to 4 weeks. I'm like, oh, 3 to 4 weeks. Yes, 3 to 4 weeks. Okay, I'm out. And then I get the notice, and it says 12 weeks. I am not even kidding you when I say it was 11 and a half weeks. 11 and a half weeks for my renewal. Not for a brand new passport, for a renewal. But at least I had something to focus on. And really and truly, I think that was what helped my fog start to lift just a little bit. You are backstage with Brawin.
Let me take a moment just to solidify this one point that sometimes a simple goal on which to focus can really keep you looking forward and feeling optimistic.
Before I continue with my passport and my journey here to the Dominican Republic, I do want to say that I know a lot of people did very, very well in the pandemic. And man, I was on Twitter just really living life through people who were out here doing the absolute most with the absolute least. But I will break some rules that only impact me and my safety. I'm not comfortable breaking rules that impact a whole society of folk. I really and truly was in quarantine. I did very, very little. In the thick of it, I was not out. I literally was not out. I mentioned I had a health situation that took 18 months to recover from. I wasn't about to jeopardize my health for my social standing. You know, I wanted to be out with my friends. I wanted to do all of the things that they were doing. I gave that up. Absolutely. That's the least I could do for my well-being and for other people that could be impacted by the decisions that I made. So I'm going to just close this little bit out with saying this one thing. If you make any decision today, make the decision to be fully present in your own life and fully accountable for your own mental health. Just one very small tool tip that helped me tremendously was going on YouTube and finding different meditations. Finding different meditations. In the middle of the day, I would just go sit in my den. I have a trunk in the middle of the floor. I sat on the floor, backed up against that trunk, and I practice just clearing my mind and trying to conquer what I knew was a state of being that I was uncomfortable with and unfamiliar with. So as I just close out this portion, I would say to you, please do something for yourself that makes you feel better. Release it because it is a burden to carry. Hi, you are backstage with Brawin. If you are struggling with your sleep, if you are feeling isolated, if you feel like you've been eating too much, drinking too much, these are all side effects of being cooped up, being stressed out, worrying about when and where you could possibly contract coronavirus. All of that makes for a really unhealthy mind. And if you aren't sleeping, like I said, if you're having any of those problems, recognize it for what it is. It simply means that you need an outlet. Talk to someone and try your best to be good to yourself and don't beat yourself up. It took me a minute to realize, like, girl, I know you think you superwoman or something like that, but you are just a regular human girl.
Here's a shocking fact. From February 2020 to March 2020, new prescriptions for depression increased by 25%.
For me, that didn't require medication, but it absolutely required a level of insight that I didn't possess. It required a level of just sitting still from a spiritual aspect and acknowledging that I was not okay. So if you are feeling that way, reach out to somebody, anybody, and just say, I am struggling today. I got so accustomed to saying that, and my tribe, I'm gonna tell you about my tribe. Give me a minute. But my tribe was so supportive. I was like, girl, I'm struggling. I am in need. I am struggling. And that signaled to them that my mental health was not what I wanted it to be, not what it had been. And that means that the girl that I was was not exactly showing up in the same way. Look at me. Look at me. I have been doing the work. I'm about to come back to y'all in a minute. You are backstage with Brawin.
Please come back and join me as I continue my story about how the coronavirus quarantine tried to rob me of my mental health like a thief. And of course, if you're enjoying our time together, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.